All right, welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. I have Katie Heindl coming up in just a minute. We talk about the Raptors, possibly for too long. We also discuss her NBA summer vacation watch. We also talk about the perfect banana ripeness and smoothies, and perhaps that also goes on for too long of a time. Before we get to Katie, just a reminder, today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Click the link in today's episode description or use promo code FBBF when you sign up to get your opening deposit matched up to $100. Draft your NFL or NBA best ball teams right now over at Underdog Fantasy and use that promo code FBBF. Okay, we are continuing in the deadest part of the NBA calendar. Nothing is happening. I mean, okay, FIBA exhibitions are happening. Unfortunately, Vlatko Cancar blew his ACL out, so that's terrible. But there's no movement in the NBA as far as the Damian Lillard situation or the James Harden situation. I mean, I guess the FIBA stuff is good enough. I enjoyed watching the Team USA destroy Puerto Rico in their first exhibition. It was a massive second half for Team USA. They ran Puerto Rico and Tremont Waters out of the gym. Tyrese Halliburton racked up a ton of assists. I guess one thing to watch for Team USA is how are they going to manage Halliburton coming off the bench? Are they going to use him with Jalen Brunson, who's been the starter? Also, a thing to watch is just how they use their small ball lineups. It seems obvious they're going to keep playing small ball. I mean, we knew that when we saw the roster, but we didn't know how small they were going to play in that first game against Puerto Rico. Like, they had Paolo Banchero playing center. They basically never ran even two power forwards on the court at the same time outside of their starting lineup, where it was Brandon Ingram and Jaren Jackson together. Like, Bobby Portis was the only big on the court at times, and he never basically went in the paint on offense or defense. So it's going to be interesting to me to see if the lack of size for Team USA ends up creating the advantages they hope it does, or if it becomes a weakness as they play some teams that have a little bit larger front lines. Speaking of those larger front lines, Team USA plays Spain on Sunday, and I will be hosting a playback watch party as we see Jaren Jackson Jr. and Santi Aldama go head-to-head. So make plans on Sunday to join me and maybe John, maybe Joey Devine, certainly probably somebody else as we watch Team USA and Spain play. That, again, is Sunday, 2:30 Central over at Playback TV/Fastbreak Breakfast. If you are interested in playing fantasy football with me and other Fast Break Breakfast listeners, well, the signups are now open at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. You have to be a patron at the $5 a month tier or higher to play. At that $5 tier, not only do you get fantasy football, but you get fantasy basketball when the time comes. You can join the unique and unparalleled Negative Fantasy League, the iShop Negative Fantasy League. Also, $5 a month gets you access to bonus episodes. Our monthly croissant bonus episode also gives you access to the listener Slack, an unbelievable value. So if you want all that, if you want to play fantasy football with me and support the creation of this show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, now let's talk with Katie Heindl. I'm joined right now by Katie Heindl, who writes the wonderful Basketball Feelings Substack. You're also writing for everywhere, it seems like. Katie, how's it going?
It's going good, Keith. I guess I am writing for everywhere. You got that right.
I mean, I feel like our listeners know Katie Heindl. You bring the Katie Heindl feeling. It's like that Barton Fink feeling, which is a reference to my favorite movie maybe of all time. But I do feel like, I don't know, should I add a brief description of where Katie Heindl is from? So I don't know what you said you were covering the FIBA, FIFA.
Yeah. FIFA.
The FIFA, the footy ball, you were covering for some outlet or something.
For
but
Nike.
for Nike,
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Heard of Nike. Did I know they were an outlet? No. But yeah, thanks for carving time out to
Keith,
join
anytime for
illustrious
you.
show Fast Break Breakfast.
Yeah, this is the number one. This is still my number one outlet.
We are the number one breakfast themed NBA outlet for 9 years running. No one has even tried to compete, frankly. We've cornered the market so hard. Some of our listeners in our Patreon only Slack were suggesting we try to become the number one basketball podcast on LinkedIn, because apparently on LinkedIn you can now post video and audio. So
you should do that. But you need to do like you got to do like the LinkedInify copy. So you got to like post some kind of inspirational blurb, like everything's I feel like a lesson on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we got to get up and have our morning. I think we could repackage breakfast. Be like, hey, we've come up with, we call it our daily centering moment, where every morning we take like 15 minutes just to eat a little bit, drink some coffee, and it's been great for morale. It's great for our health, and I think it's really going to catch on. And then all the comments can be like, you're describing breakfast. Like you can't.
You can rebrand it. You can rebrand breakfast.
We're just taking a moment to eat a little bit to start your day. And that's fuel. What, yeah, we'll call it the Power 15, the Fast Break Breakfast Power 15 centering moment. Katie, what was your Power 15 centering moment? It's trademarked, by the way.
Yeah.
We're still workshopping the name. It's going to get better.
Okay.
It'll be catchier.
Look for us on LinkedIn. I had some coffee. I made a French press. Was feeling really into it this morning.
Well done.
Needed that extra cup, Yeah. I had half a grapefruit, and I think I'm gonna make a smoothie once we're done here. So I got some bananas that are on the verge, and I got some pineapple I just cut up yesterday.
I don't eat bananas anymore unless it's in a smoothie. I eat like 4 bananas a week because I basically have a smoothie almost every day. Okay. And I don't know if it's some kind of laziness of preparing other food. If it's just, it hits a sweet tooth where I'm like, this is kind of like a milkshake, even though I'm only putting like fruit and maybe the yogurt has sugar. So it is a lot like
you're not doing any veg? Like what's your go-to recipe?
I don't do, no, mine is all basically fruit. I'll do some carrots, but those are very sweet, barely a vegetable. So like, yeah, carrots, maybe blackberries, maybe banana, strawberries, bunch of ice, maybe some plain yogurt, but also frequently vanilla yogurt, which is obviously not good for me. That's what's your go? Does yours turn green? Does yours look like the smoothie that Schwarzenegger drinks? What's the movie called? The Last Day. What's the one where he's fighting the Antichrist? I don't expect you to know.
It's called like Last Days, isn't it?
Is it Last Days?
He's drinking a smoothie in that.
I believe Schwarzenegger for a while there was contractually obligated to drink a hilarious smoothie in the opening scene of the movie. Like we meet our protagonist. Oh, he's throwing whole eggs with the shell in the smoothie, and he's gonna drink it because he's whatever. But yeah, no, what's your smoothie recipe?
I am Austrian like Arnie, but no, I don't.
No.
What am I doing? I'm doing like I mentioned. If I got bananas, I don't really like an overripe banana. I like it to eat it.
No one does.
In hand, I'm gonna eat it with like still a bit of green on it. So once it goes past that, it's smoothie territory. I'll do a bunch of spinach. I cheat though. I got like bagged spinach.
Katie. Now we have to do the spectrum of banana ripeness because so totally green, not cool. A little bit of green, barely green. That's your sweet spot.
Like there's still green on the top and bottom.
Yeah,
like a little bit of green.
Okay.
So but you can't, not so green that you can't peel. Like
if you can't break it, no, it's not ready. For me, the moment all the green is gone, that's when it is.
That's your
like
time.
I don't want any green. I'll do it if I have to, but the second all the green is gone, that's when I want it. But so you're a little.
I'm like one ahead of you. Maybe I'm like a day ahead.
You like an al dente banana.
Yeah, I do. I do. I like my pasta the same. Maybe I love like an al dente style food. If I got dates, I'll throw some dates in there for a little sweetness.
Yeah.
Do some ice, whatever berries I have, blueberry, sometimes raspberry. I mentioned the pineapple. Sometimes I have frozen avocado.
That's probably good.
However, that makes it so thick, super thick, like sludgy. So you got to do, I'll usually do like coconut, maybe like a mix of coconut water and regular water and some yogurt if I have some. But I usually like go in with a theme thinking, oh, it'll be green or kind of purple. But all my smoothies,
you go in with a color theme.
Well, they all, because like it's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
They all turn
the thing you described as brown.
Yeah, it turns like this sludgy gray by the end of it. Or it'll be green for like a minute and then I guess it oxidizes and it's just this gray mess. But it tastes good.
That's all that matters. Well, now we did a perfunctory breakfast talk, our Power 15.
Power 15. Moment. Yeah.
Have you connected, by the way? I didn't know you were Austrian. Have you connected with Jakob Poeltl as we transition into basketball?
On LinkedIn?
No, which is isn't he Austrian?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. I mean,
the
I don't
Austrian hammer.
Misnationalize somebody.
I've never talked to him one-on-one.
Gotcha.
I haven't. Yeah. I haven't. I feel like leading with the Austrian thing is a bit dicey.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm Austrian too. Wow.
Are you?
How are you?
You mean
no, that was role playing talking to Jakob Poeltl.
You're so convincing.
That would be your introduction. That might have thrown the listeners as well. The Raptors traded for Jakob Poeltl last year, Katie.
They sure did.
Now they owe a top 6 protected pick, I think is a top 6. They owe a pick to the Spurs this year. And the Raptors were not very good last year. And I think are they worse? Because they don't have Fred VanVleet. They don't have the position I like to call the dribbler. They don't have a dribbler basically on the roster.
They don't.
And
they don't have wings. They're big.
They do have. Well, they have like bigs that are sort of wings, right? They have I went through and I do like my own little depth charts just to try to organize my thoughts, and I enjoy it. I enjoy thinking about basketball. That's why I do this stuff. But I'm looking at the Raptors and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And also, you're like, all right, but they're not gonna. We don't know what they're gonna do as far as like maybe they'll trade Pascal Siakam finally or Anunoby or something. But like because of that like draft pick thing, it's like, well, you don't want to miss the playoffs again because then you have like this like, I don't know, it's something like a 20% chance that you lose your pick and it goes, it goes to the, or even higher than that actually. Like if they end up similar, like 10th or 11th, 12th in the lottery standings, it's like, all right, we're probably giving this pick up to the Spurs, which makes no sense whatsoever for a guy we probably could have signed this offseason because he was going to be a free agent. So what exactly, Katie, are the Raptors up to? As Tom Waite said, what are they building in there?
Your guess is as good as mine. I feel like the Poeltl's like the urgency for Poeltl was a vibes move because the team was in such dire straits vibes wise mid-season, though it didn't really pan out. And I don't know that was very smart because, as you said, they could have just signed him. And did it really fix anything? I'm not sure because I feel like all the things that have happened since like Fred leaving, like them. I don't want to say they overpaid Poeltl, but they sure shot themselves in the foot. We're kind of predetermined. I feel like everything's been like dominoes. The team doesn't make sense to me. I feel like they keep falling back on this method where they bank on the fact that they've had these great anomalies pan out for them in the past. And they are like, oh, we're this kind of darling, like, we do things our own way, like sort of team. Yeah. But I wish they would make a traditional move at this point because you lost Fred. You have like no developmental system that was kind of put on hold, full stop, by Nick Nurse in the past 2 seasons. Yet you've signed all these guys that really need that kind of system and aren't necessarily like ready to go now. You signed another veteran, nothing against him. I like Garrett Temple quite a bit.
Thou shalt not sully the temple, Katie.
Yeah.
Garrett Temple, I don't think can play anymore.
That's what I mean.
Has a lot in common with fellow ex-Bulls teammates Otto Porter and Thad Young.
Yeah. Exactly.
Where it's like, all right, you have like a coaching staff on the roster, essentially. And I didn't know if that was like because you guys have a new coach. You got Darko Rajakovic from the Grizzlies. I think he's the shortest NBA coach now. He's not very tall. Maybe
he's got a presence. He's got
maybe
a very
I'm not
energetic presence.
Remembering someone who's shorter than him. But it's a weird team where it's like, all right, we don't have a point guard. We signed Dennis Schroeder. We also signed again. We have on the roster these 3 older guys, and then everyone else is like doesn't dribble or pass, and most of them also don't shoot.
Yeah. The shooting's a problem. I think the people that are like still good riddance, the good riddance Fred VanVleet camp are really not taking into account that Fred VanVleet was the most prolific shooter that the team had last season, which is saying something. But like you've lost that now too. So there's no shooting, there's no dribbling. Let's hope there's passing. But as it stands now, I cannot picture this team on the floor. Like I cannot really picture them playing basketball.
Well, I was trying to figure out last year when there's some games that Fred missed and they started what might be their starting lineup now, which is Gary Trent Jr. as the only guard. And then it was the Scotty Barnes, Siakam, Anunoby, and Pirtle. And that's a weird stinking lineup. And I guess maybe one of the big question marks is that something that Darko Rajakovic is going to keep doing? Like, is he going to say, no, screw this. I'm starting. If it's Malachi Flynn or Dennis Schroeder, I'm going to start a lineup that makes more sense. And then do they move Scotty Barnes into like a 6th-man role or something? Like, do you have any guess what it might look like? Or you're just going to say, no, this is a mystery box and I have no concept.
I don't know. I would like to see, I don't mind Scotty a point, but I think the whole thing that was said, look, this was like the previous coaching staff, but it was like not wanting to box Scotty Barnes into one specific role. They wanted him to keep like playing free and sort of learning to be as positionless as he possibly could, which I think is actually where he ran into some troubles. It's like that's a lot for a 2nd-year player to really handle. So I think him being maybe like further locked into a role, whether that's point guard or not, would actually be beneficial to him. Some like stability there.
Yeah, give me some guidelines, coach.
Yeah,
give me. Children need boundaries.
Exactly.
Like just give me a role. It might be a lot to ask for.
I'd maybe like that a bit more than Dennis Schroeder starting in that position.
No one's excited. Of me, I think no one in the world is excited. It may be Germany in the FIBA World Cup, but in the NBA, no one's excited when Dennis Schroeder is like possibly your starter.
No, not really. Yeah, it's like a big question mark for me, Keith. Like, I know who I'd love to see flourish. I would love to see Anunoby thrive. I'd love to see Precious Achiuwa make some leaps that he was perhaps like not free to make under Nick Nurse. And when your coach is calling you out every other game, that kind of sucks. So that's like gone now, finally. I don't know what's going to happen with Pascal Siakam. I feel like the last trade I saw was that Hawks Raptors trade. I don't know if you saw this yesterday.
What was the?
It was like Hunter and like a lot of picks for Siakam.
Why not?
But in a way, now it's why not.
Right.
But I feel like the Raptors are still in the state of mind where it's like, no, we need a lot more for this guy. But it's like they've dragged their heels for so long now that they've actually like devalued.
Well, and I think Siakam's not helping. Didn't Siakam say something like, maybe I dreamed this, but I feel like he said something like, but he also said he's not going to sign an extension if he gets traded somewhere, which is like, oh, that's going to cool your market considerably.
Probably. I think my biggest, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, my biggest worry is almost, and I hate when we do this, like, future cast before, like, the season's even started. But if you're looking at, like, somebody like, well, I've been looking at, like, someone like OG, who, if you keep, his name has still been, like, tossed around a ton in trade situations. His contract's up next summer. If I'm him, I'm leaving because I'm like, what is going on with this team and what is my role in it?
Yeah.
And then where are you? So maybe I think
he wants to go to a team that has a point guard.
Yes, perhaps he probably does. So they're like MO of just stalling, frankly. Like that's all this is to me. It's been stalling since the season ended. They had to hire a coach. They kind of stalled on that. All their other moves have just been like waiting. And this is what I've heard from people around the league. It's just like people are getting frustrated with them because they think they have more than they do. And at some point, all these other teams are going to move on because they're like, well, it's like August. We got to figure this stuff out. Well, and you guys are like several months behind, it seems like.
As a Grizzlies fan, who we're always, for the past year, we've been, we offered this many picks for so-and-so. We offered 3 first-rounders for OG Anunoby, and then maybe it's like some kind of leftover after effect of the Rudy Gobert trade. We're like, Gobert went for all this. Now I'm hoping this Damian Lillard thing, which is drawn out, and no one's offering anything for Damian Lillard because there's just no market. Like, so my hope now is like, well, all right, Damian Lillard is going to reset this trade value thing. And it's like, no, I'm not giving you 3 picks for Siakam or Anunoby. Get out of town. Like, no. The new price.
Yeah.
New price. I give you 1 pick, maybe a swap. Maybe I let you in like a 3-way swap. You can have the second best.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the hope. But yeah, you're right. It seems like they've dragged their heels and like they let Fred VanVleet walk for nothing. Last year, going back to the trade deadline, we thought Gary Trent Jr., one of the more likely guys to move. OG Anunoby, Siakam, one of them. Like you got to pick a path. It seems like with the roster, but they have not. And now it's going to be maybe a little bit harder. For the Raptors.
It's going to stink. Yeah, it's going to stink. It's going to be a lousy season. I think they're going to be much worse. I think it'll take a little while to figure stuff out. Just like you got a new coach and new coaching staff, even if there's some familiar faces in that, it's going to take time. And I feel like there's a little bit of delusion, Keith, like going on,
What's the delusion? Do the Raptors, do you think among the fan base, among the front office?
No, I think the fan base is for the most part clear-eyed on this. I think it's among the front office a little bit of like what they have and what they think it's worth and where they're kind of projecting themselves. Unless I'm totally just like, I'm the one that's out to lunch, but I feel like I'm being very pragmatic.
There is the theory I've been pushing constantly that they needed to get rid of Nick Nurse, and that's just going to be a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
And now everyone's going to be re-engaged. Now, I don't know what Darko brings as a coach. He's never been a head coach. He coached the Grizzlies Summer League team last summer, previous summer. He gets credit as a quote unquote developmental coach, which maybe that's what people say when they just don't know anything about a coach, but maybe they do know what they're talking about. I don't know. I like to always say, I have no idea what any assistant coach does. And I will never be like, oh, it's a good hire. Like, I don't know. I barely know what the head coaches do. So like, I'm not going to say that this is a good hire, but it's not like a splashy, this guy's been here before. He's like, whenever you go with a new coach, who's an assistant getting his first job, you have to think like, all right, is this a developmental thing? Or is it like, as far as team wide, or like, it's not like, oh, hey, we have a proven playoff squad. We need a guy who knows what he's doing.
I think he'll at least he's going to meet the team where they are. And like Nick Nurse's thing was he was coaching several levels. He was coaching like this aspirational team that he wanted. And I think that's where all his frustrations were coming from, because he was like asking them to do things they just were not technically capable of doing. Whereas I think Darko is like a very positive coach. I think he's pretty practical. I think he like sees the team for what it is. So like he may be the one that is like not delusion glasses kind of, even if the front office is sort of there, but the front office like might hinder some of that depending on how they're looking at things. But I will say, to the Raptors' credit, they are a front office that typically kind of stands back and lets their coach, for better or worse, like do what they want and have control of the team. But I don't know, man, this is still I feel like it might be a stinker.
I mean, as an NBA consumer, my dream would be like, if we're playing 2K, or if this wasn't about like stars have their preferred destinations and or all moves have to be championship or nothing. Otherwise you need to be on maybe like the rebuild path. For me, it's just, hey, Raptors, trade for James Harden or Damian Lillard. If we're playing 2K, it makes sense. You have the massive salaries. You have way too many bigs and wings, and you have good players. And it's just like, let's just reshuffle. If we're picking teams, you guys need Damian Lillard. He would be great on the Raptors. No, you're not going to be a title favorite, but like, you're going to be a playoff team. Like the East, frankly, could be wide open. We don't know what's going on with the Sixers. We don't know what the Bucks are going to look like with a new coach. And like the Celtics, like, I don't know, they traded their heart and soul Marcus Smart for Porzingis, one of the worst locker room guys ever. So it's like, the East is sort of wide open. And if you're the Raptors, if you could pitch it to Damian Lillard, like, you don't want to go to Miami, come to the Raptors. We're better than Miami now. But again, I know that's a fictional world of where basketball is just for fun. And that's not the one.
It's not like that anymore. But I'm with you. It could be good. Even if he didn't really stick around, which is like always Toronto's tough selling point, right?
Yeah.
Getting stars to stay. But at this point, I'm kind of just like, you just make the move. Make any move, but you got to do something.
Yeah. You guys did draft Grady Dick. And
sure did.
One of the things you do this summer is you have your summer vacation watch.
Yes.
Which is always delightful. And you're keeping track of where these players are. And we can get out of the Raptors talk, which I'm desperately trying to do, to talk about the summer vacation.
No, you don't want to keep
watch.
I thought you were steering me back
I don't know if you saw this. Do you have tabs on where Grady Dick is right now? Because I saw a photo. It looked like he was having a great time.
He was at Caravana. He
was
at Caravana this past weekend, which is like the biggest Caribbean festival in the world, I think.
Oh, cool.
Outside of the Caribbean itself, but it's in Toronto.
It is in Toronto. Okay. I thought maybe he was in like Carnival or something. I was like, this guy seems awesome. Yeah.
They had him on a float. I think it was with I want to say it was with a bank, and I think like maybe Adidas. But I'm not trying to, I don't know.
So this isn't even vacation. This is like, he's legit doing Raptors PR work.
Working, but it wasn't really Raptors related.
Okay.
Because he was the only Raptor
But anything you do in town, can you vacation in your home in your own city? I guess that's
I've done staycations before, Keith. But
NBA players do a staycation?
We're not
NBA
NBA
players. Okay,
they can. I mean, I have I'll do a little preview. I'm going to include Jeremy Sochan in the next one because he's at home, but he's done all these posts. He's looking for an interior designer. And I was going to say a big thing about staycationing is you like where you live. You want to stay there and be there.
Yeah.
So Sochan, doesn't sound like a vacation, but to me, it's like you're setting yourself up for a sweet staycation.
I mean, if you're shopping for an interior designer at your home while you're at your home city, that sounds like doing chores, Katie. That sounds like a to-do list.
I mean, think of Keith, how difficult will it actually be for him? He's just going to hire someone and pay them a bunch of money. And then
sure.
He might even go on vacation while they do the work.
That's like me. I don't take my trash out. I pay somebody to do it for me.
Yeah. Loves.
What are some other players doing who are not in their home?
Yeah. Or
town,
their home city.
Who are actually on what I would call a vacation. Who have gone somewhere. Who's living it up the best so far that you've seen?
Devin Booker has done a rare turn. Devin Booker usually spends, I'd say, most of his summers in the woods, having these kind of rustic ass vacations.
Also, he does the nude paintings wasn't the painting class? Wasn't that him?
Yeah, that was him and D'Lo. Years ago now, Keith. Great memory. Okay. Burned into my brain as well. Unfortunately,
I remember all Devin Booker things. Anything I can use for him later in my nonstop war against Devin Booker, I that filed away. Yeah.
He went on a trip that I will say is very off the beaten path, not just for him, but for NBA players' vacations in general. He went to Switzerland.
Ooh.
And he was biking around the Alps, taking lots of pictures of him on these beautiful decks, looking out at these alpine vistas.
Yeah.
Really enjoying himself, it seemed like. And I was like, kudos to you, because this is not what you usually do. Usually he's just riding around on an ATV in the forest,
or
on a canoe somewhere in Colorado. So I guess it was rustic, but on the other side of the world. And I think usually the trips are your top three are Italy, France, and Greece for these guys.
I've seen a couple people in Switzerland this summer. Have you been to Switzerland? I've been to Switzerland.
I haven't. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was lovely. When I was in grade school and then in high school, I was all oh, Switzerland seems awesome. They were neutral in the wars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that seems great.
Mm-hmm.
They were neutral. And now as an adult, I'm like, when you're battling evil, you need to pick a side. Being neutral, you banked a lot of Nazi gold there, Switzerland.
Yeah,
not cool. Yeah. So as an adult, not as excited, but I have been actually a couple times. I went in high school on a evangelical mission trip. Okay. And then my wife and I were in Europe maybe 10 years ago, and I went back to the same spot. And I think it's a pretty touristy, It was a spot, Grindelwald, I believe it's called. And I don't know if it all looks the same, but I feel like that's where everyone kind of goes. Cause I see these photos. And again, I saw like some NBA people's photos and I'm like, I think I've been there. But maybe there's a very similar, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of hills where there's an Alp in the background.
Yeah.
Like,
and that kind of iconic Swiss chalet architecture.
Yeah.
Another like really good one that I liked that was a little bit off the beaten path was Jaylen Brown went to Japan. He a little bit, I was like, are you just me in Japan? Because he did all the things that like I have done on both my trips to Japan, which is he went to a lot of pottery stores and was just taking pictures of beautiful pottery. He got really crazy into streetwear, which is like, if you haven't been to Japan, you're just kind of like, you just turn yourself over to, you're like, all this stuff is really cool. And I'm going to buy all of it. Granted, he bought something that was like, the receipt was like as tall as me. I'm about 5'9" on a good day.
Yeah.
So he went.
Are you taller than Darko?
I've only been around him in a presser. So he was like up on an elevated stage.
Let's check back. We'll check back later in the year.
I will report back. And what I have to read you the caption of this. He went to like a tea ceremony and he ate a little rice cracker and he wrote, "This rice cracker was so good. It went perfect with the tea."
All right.
Which is
good job, Jaylen.
Just about like the sweetest thing. I thought.
Yeah. It feels good that he's stimulating the economy over there after signing the NBA's richest contract ever.
Yeah.
So he had
money to burn through.
He had some money.
Like celebrating a little bit. Who else? Now I forgot who I was.
What's the worst vacation you've seen outside of Jeremy Sohan redesigning or hiring an interior designer in San Antonio and calling it a vacation?
Look, I liked that one. Okay. There haven't actually been that many terrible ones this summer. Actually, like it's been a pretty strong summer. You haven't seen like, I haven't really seen like the big five kind of going on trips. Like usually Jimmy Butler went on a couple early trips, but Jimmy Butler was like in China for a long time doing his promo tour. So he hasn't really been on like a proper vacay. And usually Jimmy like serves up a really good vacation. Yep. LeBron James too will usually do like a big kind of family trip. Usually like rents out a pretty ballin' yacht in Europe and kind of goes around. He hasn't really done that. I understand why. Maybe his trip plans were kind of put on hold. A very strong one was, and kind of unlikely, was Boban Marjanovic and Paul George meeting up in Montenegro.
Okay.
To me, it seems like when you are in some, like you're somewhere where it's like you don't really know that many people, it's also sort of a far-flung destination. However, you find out like a colleague is there and maybe you're not particularly close with this colleague, but because you're like, it's like your only touch point to home in this new place, you're like, we should meet up. Because Boban was like ripping around on jet skis. There was this one picture, the guy who
did they make special jet skis for Boban? He
was on he was on with two other people in front of him. He was on the back, and the guy driving was bleeding from the head. They looked like they were having a ball. And Paul George was there with his wife, and they were kind of more like demure, but like they ended up, it was like fun to watch their individual stories and then to see this like crossover where they both went to dinner one night in this very picturesque place, like overlooking the ocean. And they were just drinking what looked like tiny glasses of beer. Well, were probably normal sized glasses of beer. But they were so happy to see each other. And it was such a lovely little surprise. And then I guess then the next day was when Boban was on the jet ski with the bleeding from the face guy. And Paul George went to like Greece or something. But that was like that was like a little summer vacation. I
love it.
Twist.
I love the random pair ups. And it does feel like, yeah, I understand. If I'm in Montenegro and someone's like, hey, there's another guy with a LinkedIn basketball podcast here. Yeah. Like, introduce me.
You're going to try and meet up.
That sounds,
I do have one disappointing. Actually, I have two disappointing, and they have like team ties together. So they probably wish they didn't. Ben Simmons has like just been fishing, which I guess is great for him, but it's like very boring for me.
Ben Simmons gone fishing. I feel like that's bad for the brand. He needs something more active, more.
And he's catching like 90 pounds. Like he's like, what is it, like deep sea, like sport fishing.
Sure.
So I guess some people are like, oh, that's cool. But to me,
is he out in like the Gulf Because he's he went to LSU. I don't know if he has a connection to the.
I think he was in Australia for a little bit, but like I know nothing.
I bet Australian fishing's wild, right? They got some giant fish down there.
Yeah. Huge fish, like weird fish too.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's just like posting pick after pick of like dating site style of him holding giant fish. Not necessarily what I want to see. And then Embiid also usually takes a decent trip. Hasn't yet. The only sign that he was relaxing, and this will fit into earlier mention of depressing staycation. Yeah. Him fully clothed on a lounger, like inflatable.
Yeah.
Hands like he was in a casket, staring straight up in the sky, floating around his backyard pool.
Okay. That can be relaxing. Slow
video.
Peaceful.
He didn't look relaxed.
Serene.
I'm looking at the picture now. Dead. He's like he's in a t-shirt, Keith. It's not like he's in like a tank or something. He's like in just a wet
Some
t-shirt.
of us, when we get in the pool, we wear a t-shirt. We have sensitive skin.
Maybe. It's not a rash guard.
Okay.
It's not a rash guard. I just felt worried for him when I saw that, which is not usually what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at these vacations.
There wasn't like a bottle of something in his hand just floating there where he's just like
no, maybe it was
cliche of the depressed guy. He's in a bathrobe in the pool.
That almost might have been, maybe not. If he was actually depressed, it wouldn't have been good, but at least it would have felt a little bit more relaxing.
Thank you for covering our bases.
Yeah. I'm not trying to condone anything.
Right. We're just sorry to make it dark. Anyways, Katie, thanks so much for coming on. As always, thanks for keeping us up to date with all the vacationing NBA stars. Oh, where can we check out where are the vacation watches dropping this summer?
They're dropping a dime. I should have another one. This latest dispatch, some of which I teased, should be out this week. But usually they're coming out like I'm trying to gather stuff up. So they've been coming out bi-weekly. My hope is we'll still get another one, maybe two in, because sometimes these guys wait. But they're at dime. You can read them there. I think this will be the 4th edition coming out this week.
Well, perfect. Everybody go check those out. They're very, very good. Sign up for Katie's Substack, the Basketball Feelings Basketball Substack. And Katie, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to the next time you join me.
Thanks for having me, buddy.